Okay, so at this time, the Library Board of Trustees is going to start their first virtual board meeting. So please bear with us. This is something new to most of us. I do realize that some people have been involved in other meetings prior to this, but this is definitely something a little different for me. So I guess the hour is now 7:33 and we are calling the meeting to order. Welcome to everyone. Glad everyone is doing well. We are happy to have everyone's faces here this evening. And it appears that the first item on our agenda, as usual, is the consent agenda. And I realize that most of you are indeed muted. Mr. Hall.
Move that we agree to and accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, are there any corrections that were sent in to you, Charlotte, on this? No, I do have one correction, and I would like to make sure that we add in Mr. Michaelik's first name to the minutes of the previous meeting. That's all. He ended up only with a last name on those minutes. So I believe that any votes that we do need to be done as roll call votes. So I guess we're going to have to unmute everybody in turn in order to do the roll call vote, or is it acceptable for us to just raise a hand? No? Okay. So let us begin. All in favor? I'll see if I can do this in alphabetical order. Marguerite.
Sarah?
Oh, okay.
Sorry to interrupt
I
you.
usually go last.
Sarah's
Yeah,
Ms. Cummings?
I accept the minutes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Michaelik?
I accept.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes, but I couldn't understand Marguerite or George.
They both said yes. Ms. O'Leary?
yes.
And I too accept the consent agenda. So in a typical meeting, we would be presenting the warrant for signatures at this time. But we spoke with Charlotte earlier and they are handling the finances of additional purchases. And because we cannot be in person to sign the warrant, we will not be actively signing that warrant at this time. According to our agenda, there was no correspondence, or has that changed since you sent this, Charlotte?
No correspondence.
Okay. In terms of old business, we had the Macmillan Publishers embargo and boycott update.
At this time, Macmillan has backed off. They are sort of testing the waters, and maybe Lydia, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't have the details about their new, about what they've been doing, prepared to speak on them. The embargo that we had been debating boycotting for several meetings in a row, they abandoned. So that's no longer something that we need to debate. I'm not sure about the different pricing schemes that they're weighing, but it's not something that's currently being discussed in the library community as something that other libraries are boycotting.
Thanks, Lydia. So we won't need to keep that on the agenda any longer. Okay. If it comes up again, we will, but I think they and the other publishers got the message pretty clear from librarians.
Very good. Very good. Um, the next item on old business, I guess we'll continue to put on old business, even if it is a bit comical at this point in time. I am assuming that the noise in the library and the teen behavior in the library is hopefully non-existent right now.
Right, very, very little noise in the library. We sort of don't make much noise when we go in and get what we need.
Very good. We had also asked that we continue to revisit the discussion of library fines. Again, with us not accepting the books back at this point in time and asking people to hold on to them at home.
Right, there will be no fines. All fines are waived. Actually, due dates are into June, I believe, at this point in time. But it is a good time. We talked about this. Lydia and I were speaking with somebody the other day and having a discussion about this, and this might be the time to really think about fines, seeing as we are not collecting any. We may not for a while in the future, with the exception of the fact that people do pay for replacements, and they do send in money that we get from Minuteman. So we have gotten some checks from Minuteman for past fines. But at this point, nobody is really accruing fines. It might be something that we will definitely talk about in June, looking forward.
Okay. So moving on to the FY21 budget. I know we have not had the opportunity to meet with FinCom because right before that meeting is when everything started becoming remote.
And
Have we
Tony was-
gotten any word from FinCom?
No, Tony Mizuko presented our budget. He presented all of the budgets to the selectmen. They have not voted. I believe they're voting next week. I was not able to watch that meeting the night which was last Tuesday. But my understanding is he is presenting the budget as we submitted it. Whenever that was, I don't know, January. And that will be the budget. All budgets, I believe, are going to be voted on as they were submitted, or the final copy of them that the FinCom came up with. Our budget was submitted, and we had a $5,000 cut to our utilities because they are anticipating that the lighting will cause the electricity to go down. So anyway, that's where we are with the FY21 budget, and that will be voted at the town meeting on June 22nd.
Okay, very good. The AFSCME negotiation, Charlotte and I were able to attend the first meeting in terms of the new contract negotiation that took place back at the start of March. And we do have our follow-up meeting, the second meeting in line is scheduled for this coming Monday. The first meeting was really just a getting to know who was part of the negotiation process. And we really don't have anything to report on that to this point, other than that Charlotte and I will be going to another go-to meeting on Monday morning to work on the next step of those negotiations. Did you have anything to add, Ms. Kennelly?
No, it will be a go-to-meeting meeting. We will be meeting virtually with, I believe, 2 members of the union, Sarah and I, and Mr. Mizuko, and town council, and I can't
HR.
remember. Yeah, right. So we should have something to report for the June meeting.
Very good. So if there are no questions on what we've covered so far, we'll move right along to the reports. The personnel report, obviously we haven't been hiring with the situation we've got right now, but it looks like things are moving along very nicely in our virtual world.
Right, and of course, all personnel are being paid. No one is being furloughed or laid off as other libraries are doing, in Minuteman especially. So we're very grateful for that, and I think everybody is very grateful for that. So that's been really great.
Very good. The Friends of the Library, unfortunately, are going to miss out on their book sale that should have already taken place.
Yes.
So I'm going to assume that we have no updates, Ms. Cummings, from the Friends of the Library.
Lydia, have
Is
you
that-
talked to anybody?
We were, yeah, it was determined that clearly the book sale would be called off or postponed, and there was some debate on email about whether to reschedule it for later or to be resigned to missing out on one of the twice a year book sales. And we're really, the Friends are just in a wait and see mode, and we'll await our guidance. And the only other thing was that a check was forthcoming from the Chateau for the fundraiser, which raised over $200. I forget the precise amount off the top of my head, but it raised over $200, even though it coincided with the start of quarantines and social distancing. So we were happy about that. Casey, have you seen a check come in yet?
No, there's been no check yet.
But it should be soon. I know that that they were they had spoken to the Chateau and it would be sent, but the timing was just as this craziness was all starting, so it'll show up at some point.
I'll let you know.
Okay, Ms. Montgomery?
When I realized the book sale wasn't going to be going on, I was thinking of sending a check, and I had no idea who to send a check to the Friends to.
To the library.
Just directly to the library?
Right.
Thank-
We yeah, they'll get it through us. That's where they receive all their mail, is at the library.
Thank you.
I'll let Dan know that we haven't seen that check yet, in case he wants to follow up with them to check on the status of it.
Right. There hasn't been a lot of communication between the Friends. I think,
Mr. Hall?
Kind of building on Donna's question, would there be any sense in putting a note up on the website to invite people to send checks, making note of the fact that our May fundraiser through book sale had to be postponed or canceled?
Yep.
Nope.
Lydia and I will reach out to the Friends and ask them how they feel about that, and we can go forward with that, put something on social media.
Very good. Excellent suggestion. Programming report. We had quite extensive programming going on. Ms.
Right.
Kennelly?
I hope you all had a chance to read the department reports and saw all the activities that the staff have been involved in and getting in offering programming to our residents. We've been working really hard at that. The volunteer appreciation tea and the literary luncheon have both been canceled. Wanted to let you know that. Along with, we've also canceled Staff Development Day, which was going to be on June 5th, I believe. We really felt that if we were in the library, we did not want to close it to our patrons. Very
good. Maintenance and repair, there were quite a few items that came up there.
Right. The rear windows need to be replaced. They're the windows that are in the parking lot. We replaced the ones facing where the picnic table is at the staff entry. The rest of them, the other 5, really need to be replaced, and we are going to, because we have the maintenance funds this year. We're trying to get those replaced by July 1st. The telephone system was
Very good.
capital expenditure by the town, and they are working in other town buildings right now. And we're hoping that all of our telephones will be changed out, and we will be moved over to the VoIP system, which is Voice over Internet Protocol. And we are hoping, and I'm going to be talking to Sean Warnock and Kathy Carney about our staff getting headsets so that nobody has to use the same phone, but they have their personal headsets that they can clean. Because as you know, at the reference department, there might be 6 or 7 or 8 librarians all using the same mouthpiece. And we really want to avoid that in the future. So we're working on that right now.
Very
And they're
good.
hoping to get that all installed. I'm hoping within the month. There was in the packet, there was a quote for the ceiling of the of the driveway and the parking lot, and that is being done on Thursday. We're going ahead with that, and it seemed the right time to do it while nobody was in the parking lot. So nobody will be, we've asked staff not to go pick up any supplies or anything, and Jim will have it all coned off so that we can get it sealed, and it'll be all fresh for Friday.
Very good. That would also be a good thing to put up on the website for people that are checking to see, for whatever reason, to know that the parking lot is off limits.
And social media, yep. That actually was under new business, but it made more sense to just keep it with maintenance and repair.
Ms. Montgomery.
I'm curious how you're handling the businesses in the building beside the library. Are you only doing part of the parking lot, or?
I'm sorry, I don't understand you, Donna. No, we're doing the driveway and the parking lot.
We share a
But-
parking lot is what I believe she's asking.
Yes.
Oh, well, we have only half of that. Are you talking about the building next door? No,
Yes.
he does his own ceiling. He takes care of half of the driveway and his parking lot, and we take care of half of the driveway in ours.
So will you be coning off only half the entrance to that parking lot?
Probably, although I don't think there's a lot going on in that building as well. But we've done this before. Jim will be working with the company. Yeah, it won't be a problem.
Okay.
So any other comments or questions regarding the reports? Then moving along to new business, we received the information about the sad passing of Gwen Jameson and the estate. Have you gotten any additional correspondence? Not yet.
No,
Okay.
no, just from her daughter. Her daughter wanted to know how the attorney would be reaching out to us. So we will be working. That's usually how that works, is the attorney sends us information. We sign it, send it back, and that's how that works before we get a final check. And we have no idea how much money this involves, but we are in her will.
Well, again, we are sad to hear of the loss, but please keep us informed.
Okay.
We also had the information on the Sastavicus Scholarship.
Right, that was posted, sent out, sent to all the school counselors and principals. And I have received, I think I have received the recommendations for one of the applicants. I don't know if I've received the entire application, but they have until the 15th. So that is Friday, and then I'll go through, and then Sarah and the union president and I will sit down and talk about the applicants.
Would
Which is
that be
the easy way.
something appropriate to put up on the website to remind those who are able to apply?
Well, it is up there.
Okay. Very good.
It's on the website. We put it on, so it was just actually put on social media again today on our Facebook page. We've been doing, the marketing for it.
I'm not a Facebook user, so I miss out on a lot.
It is on our website, Sarah.
Okay,
Yep.
good. We already discussed the ceiling of the driveway, and you had sent along a proposal for when we get to the point that the governor does allow things to start opening up, and we as a library start to fit into that plan. Was there anything additional that you wanted to share with us at this point, or is that better left for a future meeting?
That's better left for a future meeting. Of course, after tonight, I will, just because I did send it out to you first. I will be sending it to Mr. Mizuko and to Ms. Reese, because they will be looking at it themselves, giving us ideas, and we will then at some point after next Monday or Tuesday, probably be able to talk about how this would occur and what phases and steps we would be taking. But libraries across the country have been talking about this. This has been the big talk on in all of our channels, has been how we would reopen. And different states and different libraries and different regions are all, with different rules of how it's being done. And in this town, it would definitely be Mr. Mizuko and Ms. Reese who would make those determinations. So I'm just wanted to let you know what a plan would look like, so you have a draft of that plan.
Thank you.
If you have any questions about it.
Mr. Hall.
No questions, no suggestions, just an appreciation. I thought that the survey of the staff produced a list of very comprehensive, very specific, actionable, constructive ideas, and then they were put together into a plan which was clear at the strategic level, clear at the operational level, clear at the specific level, and was the sort of thing that you can take input from someone like Mr. Mizuko and adjust it without having to restart from scratch. I thought it was an exceptionally fine piece of work.
Oh, well, thank you. Lydia and I worked through the weekend on that. And what's interesting is we've researched probably, I don't know, about 100 documents, different plans, different articles, and been really reading all of them, reading the comments on all the different Facebook pages. And the staff even had more ideas than I would have thought of myself. And so Lydia and I both worked really hard on that. So we're glad that you appreciated it. And then when I present that to the town, I'm hoping that they'll understand that that if we have something in place, we can move forward really quickly if we need to, or we can, slowly go through those phases.
I agree with Mr. Hall that that was a very thorough presentation and that all the different stages were very well constructed. So thank you. Thank you to both of you.
We just wish we knew a little bit more about how everything was going to work, but we feel confident in the last 8-9 weeks in how we have been working and how much information we have, and the library community has so much for us to work with, that we feel really supported by the entire library community in both the country and the state and the network and everywhere. So it's been great. So,
Ms. O'Leary.
I want to, second John Hall. When I went through the package, the handouts for today's meeting, I cannot believe how much you guys got done and how busy you've been and how productive. I congratulate you.
Well, thanks. You know, we've been meeting twice a week with the first week, we met every day with all of the staff. And then we finally sort of burned out on that approach. And now we meet twice a week as an entire staff on Zoom. And we really feel, and I think Lydia and I think Casey and Brian also would agree, that we really feel that we have been incredibly cohesive. There's been just real camaraderie among this this horrible time when some of us have had really bad days. I'll be honest, there have been times when, you know, some of us just have kind of fallen apart, but we've all sort of buoyed ourselves up, and that's been really great.
I also have a question.
Mhm.
Will the library expenditures come in under the budget because of not being open and, you know, are there expenditures? Are you going to come?
No. Well, oh no, our library expenditures will not definitely come in under budget because we've pumped so much more money into our digital resources. We've, Lydia, would you like to talk to it about that?
Well, I can report that as of last month, you know, we report to the department heads every month on the status of the materials budget and where we stand. And we are we're really on target within, you know, just a couple of percentage points. We're on target for where we would normally be. And I think it's because we're putting a lot of extra money into our e-resources, and we've dialed back some of the, we're doing less spending on books and traditional resources, although we do still see the importance of getting everything that's published, and so we have it when we do reopen. But it's been really balanced out. The reduction in what we've spent on traditional resources has been balanced out by the extra that we're putting into the e-resources. So it just happens that we are pretty much on target at this stage.
I was hoping you'd come away with a slush fund.
Well, in our municipal budget, it would be a slush fund for us. It would be a slush, it would for the town, because it would go back into the general fund. We looks like we'll have, it looks like we will have some salary money left to give back to the town. Other than that, our utilities have stayed the same. All of our subscriptions, all these different things that we have to pay for, they've all stayed the same. So our budget will be coming in pretty much on target for our budget.
Well, actually,
oh, sorry.
I was just going to say that in terms of salaries, depending on when we do, in fact, start opening up, we might be pulling in more of our part-time custodians far more extensively than we would have in order to promote the maintenance, hygiene, well-being of the building. So who knows at this point? It's too far out to predict on that in that regard. Lydia?
That's true. That is true, Sarah. But right now we actually do have a little bit of a surplus in the salaries account. So I think we'll come in just fine on our budget, and but we won't have gone over. But we have also purchased some software, the various other pieces that we feel that we need to communicate with our patrons. So, and the town is actually, Casey is doing a great job earmarking all of our costs that are technically COVID related for FEMA and MEMA reimbursement possibly. And so they have an account in town where they're taking all those amounts. We're paying them from our budget, but they are taking them in case they are reimbursed. So it's a kind of a complicated accounting story right now, but that's what's going on.
Ms. O'Leary, had you had something else that you wanted to add?
I'm trying to remember what it was.
Sorry.
You.
Ms. Sampson?
I was just gonna point out that Charlotte and I both attended online sessions with the NBLC Q&A on state aid, and the MDLC has assured everyone that all of that the crisis is being taken into consideration in terms of its impact on the materials budget, so we don't have to worry about the materials budget in terms of meeting the state aid requirement. But that said, we're on target anyway, and that makes me happy for just budgeting going forward in general. I wouldn't want to be that far off. I'd like to stay close to it, but there aren't any worries about how this would impact things.
I sent you that document, the state aid document. You got that along with the reopening plan. So you can read what those changes were.
Mr. Hall.
On a sort of related matter, part of the funding for the Community Preservation Act comes as a state match. And we received a memo within the past month that the amount of money that we were expecting to receive from the state was cut by more than half. And so I think that this is the first of many ripple effects because the revenue sources for the state, I think, are more sensitive to what's been happening than the direct revenue sources for the town.
Right.
So we may be able to keep it at the margins, but cuts of that size, even on something at the margins, could be hard to swallow.
Right, our state aid to public libraries could be cut next year. So we just don't know yet. It's all unknown.
Ms. O'Leary?
Have you, as a staff, had conversations about how the day-to-day running the library experience may be modified or adapted to current circumstances in terms of hygiene, or how many people in the library at the same time, or?
Well, that's all in that plan and in that survey, yes. And
Did I
we
get
just-
it? Did I
Yes.
get it? Oh, I did.
yes, yeah. All of those variables are in there as to what will be expected, what the Department of Health will determine we have to do. We feel that for our own safety, we'll be having custodians in, cleaning surfaces constantly, cutting down on the amount of people in the library. There are going to be a lot of limitations. And that's part of what makes us so sad, is that, our library is misused by a lot of people, and our programming is so popular. We really felt like, there was just so much personality to both our staff and our patrons, and a lot of that is going to change in the at least in the next 12 months. Hopefully maybe we can get back to where we were before at some point.
When did you send that out so I could look for it in my mail? It was
Very, very early Monday morning.
okay. All right, that's fine. That's all I need.
Yeah, 6 o'clock Monday morning, because Lydia and I talked at 10 o'clock Sunday night.
Do you mean? Yeah. Are you talking about yesterday?
No, Sunday. Yes, yesterday, Monday morning, right? Yes.
I'm double checking.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry to.
I just
missed
put
it.
the final touches and made it into a PDF very early yesterday. I think it was around 6 I sent it
I'll look for it.
in the morning.
Yep.
We
It
wanted
was
to make
around,
sure-
it was around 6. The subject line is Morrow Memorial Library reopening proposal. So if you do a search on reopening proposal, you should pull it up there. And there were 2 attachments at the end. One was kind of the state type guideline or the state aid information, and the other was a very lengthy and detailed proposal.
which included the staff survey. It
Yes.
also included a curbside proposal that Lydia and I worked on. that we're hoping will be accepted, by the town when we get to that point. But we don't expect that point to be happening really soon. So I think I think Tony Mizuko is going to be very cautious. Especially in light, today we've heard about Germany having more cases and Wuhan, China, having a resurgence. And I think they want to make sure that that doesn't happen in Norwood. We just don't want our staff and our patrons put at risk. So.
Okay, so that appears to be the last item in the new business side of things. Was there anything else anyone wanted to question, comment at this point of the meeting? Nope. Okay. So the important question of the evening, were there any search warrants?
There were none.
No search warrants. And here this would have been the perfect time. Miscellaneous advisories?
None, other
Okay.
than what we've already talked about in the various things I've been giving you.
Very good. Staff public remarks. Irene, did you have any book suggestions
No
or
books.
remarks?
No, I don't.
Okay. Casey?
I haven't had much time to read as I have 2 toddlers. But I finally did actually get a chance to read Where the Crawdads Sing. And I have to say, it's as good as people say. I gave it 2 thumbs up. I loved it. It was really, really great. So if you get a chance to listen to that on an audio,
Very good.
or read it on Libby, now's your chance.
Excellent. Thank you. And I guess we have Brian and we have Joe in the background there if they would like to chime in with any book suggestions.
Much like Casey, I have 2 kids, so I haven't had much time for reading lately, but hopefully very soon.
Although we are having our staff book discussion still once every the first Friday of every month, which is people are reading, but we've all talked about the fact that we just our attention spans are not very good in this mode.
Excellent. So on to trustees' remarks. I'm looking across my screen here, and the first person that I see is Lydia.
Okay, my highlight, I'm reading so many books at the same time and not really getting anywhere in any of them, the attention span issue. But my the last one that I finished that I was really excited about was called Empty Mansions by Bill Deadman. Subtitle is The Mysterious Life of Huguette Clark and the Spending of a Great American Fortune. And it's about the very eccentric daughter of William Clark, one of an old copper baron, who they lived in the biggest house in New York City for her upbringing, and owned other properties, a property in Connecticut and a property in California. And she lived to be 104 years old and lived in a small hospital room as kind of a recluse for decades, while these mansions were empty, but cared for by caretakers. So it's sort of the story of the family and of this woman, but are sort of the framework is about the fact that these the mansions were empty for so many years while she lived this sort of reclusive life. It's pretty fascinating.
Excellent. Mr. Hall, you're next across my screen here.
It's an honor to be so recognized. Well, first, I'm going to mention 2 items. I had mentioned at one of our previous meetings that we had discovered the David Baldacci Memory Man series, which Sarah was very familiar with and supportive of. And we've been continuing to go through those in the books on CD form and completed all the ones that were published until just now when a new one has come out and we have it sitting over here waiting to go into the car player. We also, because of a shortage of the Memory Man series, discovered Baldacci's more recent series involving FBI agent Atlee Pine. And there have been 2 of those. We finished the second one. And for anyone who likes Memory Man, they're going to like Atlee Pine as well. Now, switching over to my home base of graphic novels and such, the comic book retail industry has largely been shut down for 4 to 6 weeks because the sole wholesaler in the country has closed down. There is a rumor that they will be back up and running next week, but I've been left to work my way through things I already have. And one of them I think is worth mentioning. There were 2 recent premium cable miniseries that featured the rise of the American Nazi or Ku Klux Klan parties. One was the sequel to Watchmen, and the other was the adaptation of Philip Roth's Plot Against America. Lo and behold, before either of these came on, I had acquired the book you see here. And Casey, I will send you a more complete reference so you don't have to try to read through blurry eyes. And it's called The Invisible Empire. It's a fact-based graphic novel about a woman who was instrumental in unmasking the Ku Klux Klan in one of the hotbed states back in the 30s or so. And so I'm expecting it to have a lot of relevance with all this other talk that's going on, and I'm looking forward to it. I haven't quite finished it yet.
Okay, excellent. Very good. Continuing across my screen, I have Ms. Kennelly.
Well, I've been trying nonfiction. I've been trying fiction. I've had a really hard time concentrating. I haven't even binged any really binged any television shows or podcasts. By the way, the library has produced its very first podcast. Kate Ty has posted it, and it's actually on Spotify. You can download it. And Lydia, Casey, what is the name of it?
Do we read it?
Do we read it, as in Dewey, D-E-W-E-Y, read it. And so they are hoping to keep producing and having all of us involved in it, so that we will have our Morrill Memorial Library podcast. But I'm reading a book. I actually listened to the podcast Committed, which is really a wonderful podcast about couples relationships and how committed they are through thick and thin. And one of the books, and this is the book I'm reading, is Chasing My Cure, A Doctor's Race to Turn Hope into Action by David Feigenbaum. And he and his wife were just married, and he had these episodes where he almost died many times, and he has a disease. I don't really remember the name of the disease, but it's one of those diseases that doesn't get, there are quite a few people who have it, but it doesn't get any research. And so there's no cure. So he was in medical school, and so he decided that he was going to devote his time to finding a cure for this disease. And so that's what he's doing. And it's a very inspirational story. It's amazing how much he's accomplished. He isn't cured of the disease, but he's doing much better. So that's what I'm reading, Chasing My Cure.
Very good. Thank you. Continuing across my screen, we have Ms. Cummings.
Hi, everybody. I just like to make a staff remark. Trustee remark about, I read in the paper about the staff at the library that is not only working hard to keep the community connected in all of the ways through social media that you're doing, all the outreach, and making everything so available. You did it so well. All the digital platforms that you put out for everybody, but to our former and beloved Cashman, Kerr, Price, and to Marge Corey, who are making masks at Marge at like an unbelievable rate, 60 a day for the first responders and for people in the community that are working like in the grocery stores and everything, for that thing that Susan Clare made in the sustainability, under the sustainability umbrella. She made that Facebook site for masks. And boy, it's just amazing. Everybody in Norwood always pulls together and just is there for everybody. The food pantry, everything that's out there. Mr. Mizuko's weekly talks, letting us into like the parlor to let us know what's going on. It's just unbelievable. But to Cashman and Marge and Liz, thank you for all you do. It's just great. And now to get to my book, what did I read? Well, I read many things, and one that was delightful was the Louise Penny, who are A Better Man. So I was happy that I found something like that, and that was great. And then text me when you get home, which was how women always, you know, we used to say, call me when you get home, let me know you arrived all right. And, you know, men don't say that to each other, but we do, and how we always watch out for each other. That was by Kathleen Schaefer. And it was a telling book about how women communicate with each other. We sometimes don't expect people to call us when they get home, but we always want to make sure we got home safely, especially, well, not at my age, but, you know, when people are young and out and free, make sure you got home okay. And then one that really was, you know, since becoming a trustee and realizing that sometimes nonfiction was something that was maybe something we should explore. So I explored American Prison by Sheen Bawa. Wow, what an eye opener. If anybody ever wants to know just how horrible the for-profit prisons are in America, it's a terrible eye opener going all the way back to right post the Civil War, and how badly people were treated, and how racism picked up. Yeah, I don't know if I can say yes to you, John. I think that Sarah has to do that. But anyways, that's what I wanted to say. It's an eye opener.
Okay, Mr. Hall.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add a personal note to Marguerite's salute to the people making masks. A few inches to my left, my wife Jean is cutting out more fabric spares for masks. She was very probably the first person involved, because she passed the idea to Susan Clare, who then organized things. Jean has produced literally thousands mask fabrics, and also is the principal acquirer of the elastics that are required to turn them into masks. And there definitely is a group of dozens of people in Norwood who were part of this effort, and their output has been remarkable. Jean says hundreds, hundreds of people.
I heard 3,000.
Okay, so I believe that it is now Ms. Montgomery's turn.
According to Susan Clare, there's over 500 people working on that project. So, I have been unable to read, other than the Boston Globe and the Washington Post, because surprising as it is, with my business closed, I have been more busy than you can imagine. I am exhausted and asleep by 8:30 at night, which is unusual. But I'm getting a lot done, and I'm taking care of the laundromat. It's sterilized every day. It takes me hours. And it's just, I'm just doing so much. So that's
Very good.
I'm not-
Well, I think we're all doing a pretty good job of finding ways to fill the time. Thank you. Continuing around my table here, Ms. O'Leary.
Well, with Donna, I haven't been doing that much reading. I mean, my son's mother-in-law is a mystery writer, and I am trying to get into her book, and I forget the name of it, and he writes under a pen name. But there's so much Italian words. There's so many words that I'm having trouble following it. So I have on my desk a copy of The Plague by
Camus.
Camus. And that's, I think I'm gonna read that. and I through, I love Amazon. I go shopping every day. And I got a critical analysis of Camus' The Plague. So that's what I'm going to get into now.
Thank you. Mr. Michaelick.
Hello. Yes, I've been busier than ever. I've been, distance working since 1999. I've kind of been the pioneer of this. And with everyone at home, it kind of upsets the routine that you're used to. So like Donna, I'm busier than I've ever been, but haven't been really had enough time to read big books. I've been reading smaller things, like more business, branding things, brand sense, secrets behind why we buy stuff. I can get my head into that a little bit, but it's funny how distracting things are. Even though you think you have more time, and parts of life seem a little bit easier. I appreciate not having to get people up in the morning at 6 a.m. and get them on the bus and have them grumble at me. That part is better. But overall, it just seems like you actually have less time for relaxation. Things slide around a lot. So, but we're adapting well, and staying busy and staying positive. That's the important part.
Very good. Well, in this house, the two books that I was bringing to the table have already been mentioned by other people. So I too was able to digitally check out Where the Crawdads Sing, and just finished it the other day. So I concur with Casey on that one. And I went back and I rechecked out to read a second time Louise Penny's A Better Man. And I got even more out of it the second time through. So that was very entertaining. I also ended up making an enormous set of all of the gift cards in the house purchase for my mother, who will not use digital books at all and has no library from which she can get books down in Virginia. So she ended up with a lot of new, fresh off the press things down there that I can't wait to read. Within our house, we have members of the Quarantine Book Club, at least one. We started with 2, we're down to 1, but that is a marvelous, marvelous gathering of young adults. I know that is a huge hit within this house. And we've also been being a bad influence on them, allowing them to finally watch the Indiana Jones movies and immediately segged it into the Librarians movies. So if you have not had an opportunity to watch the Librarians movies, they are very much tongue-in-cheek Indiana Jones style movies, and they are hilarious. So they watch through those very quickly here.
Those are Australian, right, Sarah?
I don't honestly know. They're just wacky. But I had gotten them we had checked them out from the library a few years ago, and then I picked them up for my husband more recently, and now the kids are enjoying them as well. So if you're looking for something a little zany, they're
After
fun.
the
Um,
movies of the librarians, there were several seasons of hourly episodes. And
we have all 4 seasons.
I want to make sure everybody knows that those are around to be had. They've also, I think there are books related to the librarians. I think I've got a couple of them. And the Indiana Jones also had a TV series, Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, that came out. I think we might have that too. It's just like if you decide you really like something, they're going to keep giving you more of it.
This is true. Let's see. I'm looking over my list, and it looks like we have wrapped up everything except for the final item on the agenda.
I just want to point out at the bottom of your agenda, the town election on the 8th, the touchless election. The board, our board meeting, which would be the annual reorganization of the board, and town meeting on June 22nd.
One thing that I just realized this afternoon was that I have not reached out to town hall in terms of the fact that the election is the day before our next meeting. And we will have trustees that will need to be sworn in again.
Right.
So that will be an extremely rapid turnaround given the town hall hours.
Right. Yes, you will need to be sworn in before you can vote at that night's meeting, I believe, correct, and the next night's meeting. And I'll reach
So
out to you,
those-
I'll find out if there's something and town hall is not open, we'll figure out how that can be done.
Okay.
How
Okay.
many current board members are up?
3.
We have 3 current board members that are up for re-election this year. It's an unusual year.
Who?
Mr. Hall, Ms. Cummings, and Mr. Michaelick.
Good
Mr.
luck.
Michael is a 1-year term. And the other 2 are 3-year terms.
So spread the word about the election as long as we're actually open and able to do it. Let's hope so, right? And I guess this takes care of the items on our meeting until hopefully we meet ideally in person, but otherwise with a go-to-meeting again next month.
So
So now we
somebody,
need someone to make a motion.
Movie adjourned?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Montgomery? Okay, we need to go through the roll call vote again. So I'm just going to go down the list again. Ms. Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Hall, obviously you, Mr. Michaelick,
Aye.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Ms. O'Leary,
Aye.
and myself. I also vote in favor of adjournment. Good luck, stay safe, stay in touch, and we will see everyone in June.